Definition shapes everything that follows it. What a thing is defined as determines how it is approached, how it is received, how it is experienced, and what it produces. Define the week as obstacle, and it becomes one. Define it as demand, and the person enters it already defensive. Define it as threat, and the first unexpected difficulty confirms what the definition predicted. The definition precedes the experience, and whatever defines the week first tends to govern how the week is lived. This is the window. Monday morning before the week has defined itself, before the inbox has rendered its assessment of what the week will require, before the calendar has announced what is expected and when, before the first conversation of the week has established its tone, before the Monday difficulty has made its case for the definition it prefers. The week is present right now only as the undefined thing, as possibility, as the blank page that has not yet been written on by anything other than what is chosen in this moment. And what is chosen in this moment, before anything else has a chance to choose it first, is this. God defines this week, not the inbox, not the demands, not the inevitable difficulty, not the comparison with what last week was, not the anxiety about what next week might be. God, first, before anything else. This is Monday, May 11th, and you came here before Monday had its chance. That single act is the most important thing about this morning. Not the quality of the prayer that follows, the fact of the coming before anything else came, the choosing of God's definition over the default. His word declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 118, verse 24, that this is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. The day the Lord has made, not the day the inbox will make, not the day the difficulty will make. The day the Lord has made. The definition is given before the day has offered its own. This is the Lord's day, this Monday. This specific, unrepeatable, already underway, Monday, May 11th, belongs to the one who made it, and the person who receives that definition before the day has received any other is the person who will experience the day differently from the person who allowed the day to define itself. Before we enter this prayer, write in the comments right now, Lord, define this week before anything else does. I receive your definition over every other claim on what this week will be. Write it as the prior claim. The declaration of ownership before the week has had a chance to assert its own, like this video, as an act of choosing God's definition over the default the week would otherwise produce. Subscribe to this channel so we can begin every week together, before Monday has had its first chance to define the interior. And share this prayer with someone who needs God's definition of their week before the week's definition of itself arrives. What you send might change how their entire week is experienced. Now let us receive God's definition before anything else is given the chance. Lord my God and my Father, I come before you on this Monday morning, and I make the most significant choice available to me before the week has offered any other choice. I choose your definition of this week over every other definition that will be presented. The week will attempt to define itself through what it produces. The good Monday will produce a good definition. The difficult Monday will produce a difficult definition. The unexpected thing will define the week as the week of the unexpected thing. All of those are real definitions. All of them will be offered, and each of them will be genuinely competing for the interior position that determines how the week is experienced. But before any of them, your definition, the week the Lord made, the week in which God is already present in every Monday moment, and every Tuesday challenge, and every Wednesday fulcrum, and every Thursday decision, and every Friday accumulation. The week that belongs to the one who made the days before the days had a chance to make their own claims. That week defined by you before anything else. Your word declares in the book of Colossians, chapter 1, verse 16 through 17, that in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him. And he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. Before all things, in him all things hold together. The week that exists within that before all things and holds together is not the week that the inbox's definition would produce. It is the week that is held together by the one who is before all things, including this Monday, including this week. Receive that week today, the one held together by the one who is before all things. And Father, let the receiving of the God-given definition be specific enough to be felt in the body. Because the week defined by demand creates a specific bodily experience, the shoulders carry the weight of the upcoming requirements. The breath is shorter in the anticipatory pressure. The jaw carries the tension of the performance expected. The body responds to the week's definition before a single demand has actually been made. The week defined by God creates a different bodily experience. The shoulders are not carrying what the week's definition has not yet placed on them. The breath is fuller in the pre-demand stillness. The jaw is less clenched in the orientation that is established rather than braced. The body follows the interior definition, and the interior that received God's definition before Monday's demands arrived is a different interior than the one that was already shaped by the demands before they materialized. Your word declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 62, verse 1, that truly my soul finds rest in God. My salvation comes from him. The rest is in God, in the God-given definition, in the stillness of the before the demands moment where the definition is received. And the soul that finds rest in God before the week has begun, its demanding, brings a rested quality to everything the week's demands will eventually require. Rest in God first, before the demands have arrived to make the resting difficult. In this prayer, in this Monday morning window, before anything else has the chance. Father, I want to name what happens when the week defines itself before God has had the chance to define it first. The week that defines itself produces a specific kind of person by Friday. Not the worst possible person. Not the person who was careless or faithless or unconcerned with what matters. The person who was reactive, who took the shape the week pressed them into, whose Monday's urgency became the Tuesday's orientation, whose Wednesday's difficulty became the Thursday's discouragement, whose Friday arrived carrying the shape that the week had impressed on the interior, rather than the shape that was carried into Monday from the morning prayer. The reactive week is not the faithless week. It is the week in which the person's interior was shaped more by what the week produced than by what the person brought to the week. And the person who arrives at Friday of the reactive week is a slightly different person from the person who arrived at Monday. Not dramatically, in the accumulated small ways that each day's shaping without the God-given definition produces. The defined week is different. The person who brought God's definition into Monday carries it through the shaping events rather than being shaped primarily by them. The Monday difficulty is received by the person who knows the week belongs to God rather than to its most difficult moments. The Wednesday challenge is navigated by the person whose orientation was established before Wednesday arrived to set it. The Friday accumulation is carried by the person who has been maintaining the given definition through the week, rather than accumulating the week's offered definitions. Your word declares in the book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 2, to not conform to the pattern of this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Not conform. The pressure to conform is real, and it is the pressure the undefined week exerts. The week wants to conform the person to its own shape. The Monday difficulty wants to make the person a Monday difficulty person. The pressure is the world's pattern, and the renewing of the mind is the resistance to that pressure. The definition given by God, held through the week's conforming pressure, produces the transformed person rather than the conformed one. Lord, define this week before anything else does. I receive your definition over every other claim on what this week will be. And Father, I want to ask for something about what God's definition of the week actually says, because a definition without content is just a claim of priority. What does God actually say this week is? This week is the week in which God is working, in everything, including the difficult things, including the unexpected things, including the things that the week's default definition would classify as failures or setbacks or evidence that the week is not going well. In everything, God working, producing from the week's contents something that the week's events, evaluated only on their own terms, would not produce. This week is the week of His faithfulness. His faithfulness does not take the week off when the week is demanding. It does not diminish through the accumulated demands of Monday through Friday. It is the same on Friday as it was on Monday, complete, active, attending to every moment of the week that was lived in His presence. Every moment, even the ones that felt unattended to, attended to. This week is the week of becoming, not arriving, not completing, becoming. The person who lives this week in the presence of God's definition is becoming something through the living that the week's events, evaluated only on their own terms, cannot fully account for. The character being formed in the difficult conversation, the faith being deepened in the uncertain situation, the love being developed in the demanding relationship, all of it becoming. In the week that God defined first. Your word declares in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 11, that the plans God has are plans to prosper and not to harm, to give a hope and a future. Plans already made for this week, for the specific person living it. The definition includes the plan. And the plan is not for harm, for hope, for a future. The week defined by those plans is received differently from the week defined only by what the events themselves produced. And I want to ask for something that God's definition of the week specifically produces in the relationships it holds. Because the person who enters Monday with God's definition brings a different quality to every interaction than the person whose definition is still being assembled from the week's incoming signals. The person whose week is defined by God's faithfulness and His working in all things is the person who receives the Monday colleague from the position of someone who already knows something true about the week that the colleague does not yet know. Not superiority, a kind of settledness. The Monday conversation is entered by the person who knows the week belongs to God rather than to the conversation's outcome. Which means the conversation can be fully entered rather than managed, from behind the anxiety of what its outcome will do to the week's definition. The relationships of the week receive the full version of the person whose definition was established before the interactions began, not the managed, defended, outcome-anxious version. The settled, genuinely present version, the version that can listen before responding, that can be curious before being defensive, that can offer what the other person needs rather than performing what the week's definition would have required. Your word declares in the book of Ephesians, chapter 4, verse 15, to speak the truth in love, growing in every way more and more like Christ. Growing. That is the becoming. The week's relationships entered from the God-given definition are the terrain in which the growing happens, not the performance of the already arrived, the participation in the growing. And the growing requires the settled interior that the God-given definition provides. Lord, define this week before anything else does. I receive your definition over every other claim on what this week will be. Lord, I want to pray now about the specific quality of the Monday that the God-given definition produces. It produces the freedom to begin rather than the pressure to succeed. The week defined by the expectation of what it must produce begins with the pressure of the production already present before a single thing has been produced. The Monday person carrying the weight of what the week must accomplish by Friday is already under that weight at 7 in the morning on Monday. The beginning is weighted by the ending before the beginning has begun. The week defined by God begins differently. The beginning is a beginning. Not the first moment of the judgment that will arrive at Friday's reckoning. The first moment of the week in which God is working, in which His faithfulness is active, in which the becoming is underway. A genuine beginning, without the ending's weight already attached to it. Your word declares in the book of Philippians, chapter 1, verse 6, that He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Carry it on. The work of the week is not the person's production to be judged at Friday. It is the work that God began and is carrying on toward completion. The person's role in it is participation rather than production. They participate in what God is carrying. They contribute to what God began. And the contribution is received not as the performance that will be judged, but as the participation that will be continued. That is the freedom to begin. The Monday that opens from that position is a different Monday. Lord, define this week before anything else does. I receive your definition over every other claim on what this week will be. And Father, I want to ask for something specific about the Monday that follows the God-given definition that the beginning section did not address. The quality of attention. The person whose week is defined by the inbox's initial assessment approaches Monday's first task with the attention of someone who is managing toward the week's required output. The attention is directed toward the production. The process is evaluated against the result, and the quality of the attention is determined by whether the process is producing the required output efficiently enough. The person whose week is defined by God approaches Monday's first task with the attention of someone who is participating in what God is working. The attention is present to the actual task rather than hovering over it as a quality control function. The work is entered rather than managed, and the quality of the entering is different from the quality of the managing. Your word declares in the book of Colossians, chapter 3, verse 23, that whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. For the Lord. That is the redirection of the attention, not to the output that the human master assesses, to the Lord who receives the work of the heart. And the work of the heart, entered with all the heart, is qualitatively different from the work of the performance, managed toward the assessed output. Work with all your heart today, Lord, not to produce the week's required output, for the Lord who defines the week and receives what is given within it. And Father, let the God-given definition specifically shape how I receive the Monday's first difficulty, because the first difficulty of the week is the first test of the definition. It arrives and it presents itself as a potential redefiner, as the thing that has the power to replace the Sunday's carefully chosen definition with the Monday's honest evidence about what kind of week it is going to be. The person whose definition was set in this prayer receives the first difficulty from the position of the definition that precedes it. The difficulty is real, and the week belongs to the God who made it and who is working in everything it produces. Both are true simultaneously. The difficulty does not have the authority to revise the week's definition. It is one event within a week that was defined before the event arrived. Your word declares in the book of James, chapter 1, verses 2 through 4, to consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Consider it joy. That is the perspective available to the person who received God's definition of the week before the trial arrived to offer its own. The trial is not evidence that the week is not what God defined it as. It is part of the becoming that the God-defined week was always going to produce. Father, as this prayer closes, I want to receive something that will carry the God-given definition through the entire week. A practice. Simple. One sentence. Returnable at any point, the week's events are attempting to redefine what the morning established. The practice is this. When the week presses its alternative definition, one breath, and then the prior claim. This week belongs to God. Not to this difficulty, not to this pressure, not to this unexpected thing. To God, who made the day, who is before all things, in whom all things hold together, who is working in everything this week produces, whose faithfulness is the same on Wednesday as it was on Monday. To God. That single returnable practice is the anchor of the God-given definition through the week's conforming pressure. It does not require a full prayer. It requires the prior claim to be remembered and restated at the moment the conforming pressure is highest. This week belongs to God, and everything the week produces is held within that prior claim. Your word declares in the book of 2 Chronicles, chapter 20, verse 15, that the battle is not yours, but God's. Not yours, but God's. That is the specific word for the moment when the Monday difficulty makes its case for redefinition. The battle is not yours. The outcome does not depend on the person's sufficient performance. It belongs to God. The one who defined the week before Monday had its chance, who holds the week in the same hands that made it, who is working in everything the week produces toward what his faithfulness has already determined it will include. Not yours, God's. This week belongs to Him, and I want to receive something about what the week looks like from the Friday side, when the God-given definition was carried through it. Not the week where everything went as planned, the week where the definition held through what was not planned. The Monday difficulty was received within the definition rather than replacing it. The Wednesday challenge was navigated by the person whose orientation was established before Wednesday arrived. The Friday accumulation was carried by the person who knew the week belonged to God, and that God was working in everything the week was accumulating. That person arrives at Friday different from the person who allowed the week to define them. Not more successful in the external accounting, more formed in the internal one. The character that was being shaped by the God-defined week is more real than the performance that the event-by-event accounting would have produced. The faith that was exercised through the Monday difficulty is deeper than the faith that only exercised in comfortable conditions. The love that was offered in the demanding relationship is more genuine than the love that only flows when the relationship makes it easy. Your word declares in the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 16, that though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day, day by day. The inward renewal happens in the God-defined days, in the days where the definition was received before the day had its chance. And the person who is being renewed day by day is the person who will arrive at the following Monday different from the person who arrived at this one. Not because the weeks became easier, because the definition was received and held, and the holding produced the renewing. That renewal is what this week is for. The God-defined week produces it. And it begins right here, on this Monday morning, with the choice to receive the definition before anything else had the chance. Lord, define this week before anything else does. I receive your definition over every other claim on what this week will be. That is the declaration this Monday begins from. The definition is given, Not by the inbox, not by the calendar, not by the first difficulty, by the one who made the day and who is before all things and in whom all things hold together. The week belongs to God, and the person entering it carries that definition before anything else had the chance. To everyone who prayed with me this morning, go back to the comments and write it one final time. Lord, define this week before anything else does. I receive your definition over every other claim on what this week will be. Return to that claim. At every moment, the week attempts to redefine itself. Not yours, God's, before anything else. Always. Subscribe to this channel and come back tomorrow morning. We are here every day, receiving the definition before the day offers its own. Share this prayer with someone who starts every week already shaped by what last week was. Not someone who needs encouragement about the new week. Someone who needs the God-given definition before the new week sets its own. May the Lord define this week in your interior before the inbox and the calendar and the Monday difficulty have had their chance. May the definition hold through every conforming pressure the week produces. May the becoming that God's definition is working toward be visible by Friday in ways that the event-by-event accounting of the week would not have predicted. And may you arrive at Friday as a person who was shaped more by the morning prayer's definition than by the week's accumulated events. In Jesus' name, amen.